So for today's video, we're going to dive into my very modest and humble Christian Louboutin shoe collection. You know Christian Louboutin. You know, it's the red bottoms, the bloody shoes. Hello, YouTube, and welcome to Mrs. Koi Style. My name is Kawana. I thank you so much for joining me here on my channel where I talk about my style, your style, everyone else's style, and lifestyle. And once in a while, I sprinkle in just a little bit of luxury style. So if that is something that interests you, I certainly hope that you will consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the bell notification so that you never ever miss one of my videos. Christian Louboutin is a Parisian shoe designer who started off as a freelancer working in Paris. In 1992, he opened up his own boutique where he was selling shoes. But around 1993, he became inspired to paint the soles of his shoes red when he saw his assistant using nail polish, red nail polish on her nails. He thought, wow, the red color is very striking. He also connected it to power, sophistication, and the strength of a woman. So there go, the red bottoms were born. Now, here in America, even though they started in 1993 over in Paris, here in America, the shoes became popularized around 2008. I was seeing them on all of the celebrities, and I just kept seeing these shoes that had these red soles, and I just thought that they were incredible. So I knew I had to snag a pair. When I first started looking, they were retailing for around $695. So, I said, let me save up my coin so that I could actually purchase a pair. My first experience purchasing a pair, or attempting to purchase a pair, was absolutely horrific. I go into the store with one of my friends. We were both very excited. We've been looking at the Socates. We've been looking at them in black matte, black patent, and also in the nude kind of color. We just wanted a pair. We were very into it, so we hop on the subway one day after work. We go into the city to get our shoes. I'm feeling like, for many years at that time, I'd been wearing a size 9. So I'm like, yeah, I need a size 39. The lady kind of eyeballs me and gives me a look and says, well, okay, let me go and see what I have. She comes out, she gives the shoes to my friend. She gives me a pair. And I said, it was like trying to squeeze a circle into a square, or vice versa. These shoes just were not working, and I could not understand why. And she looked at me again, and she eyeballs me up and down and says, these shoes, Christian Louboutin, Parisian shoes, Italian shoes, or whatever she said, they're just not for everybody. They don't fit everybody's foot. And so maybe you'll have to look at some other designer, because not everybody can wear a Christian Louboutin. So I left feeling very deflated, very crushed, because it had been months that I had been wanting these shoes. And so I just said, wow, this is a shame that I can't, that these shoes are not made for me. My friend got her shoes. She was very excited about them. We trekked it back to Brooklyn where we were going, and there I went without my shoes for several months. A few months later, I'm watching all of the celebrities, those folks rocking their shoes, especially like the reality TV stars. I had Jennifer Williams from Basketball Wives was wearing them. We had Drita DeVanzo from Mob Wives. I just loved Drita. Okay, let me not get off topic. Maybe one day I'm going to do a video about the people or like celebrity fashion that inspired me, especially in the reality realm. Anyway, I'm watching Atlanta Housewives on one Sunday evening, and Marlo Hampton, who was my absolute fave, she slayed every look and brought the logos to the screen. Marlo and Nene were having a conversation about going shopping, at which time Nene mentions, yeah, let's get to Neiman's. I wear a size 41. I have to get me some Louboutins. And Marlo says, yeah, I'm a 42. Let's go. And I'm thinking, 41 and 42, when you think about the conversion of that, those are size like 11 and 12. So, duh, aha kind of moment, Kawana, maybe you need to size up in these shoes. So I make my way back to the city. I go into a couple of different stores, but I pop my head into Saks, and that is when I met my shoe designer. Not my shoe designer, I'm sorry. When I met my sales associate, I just miss him so much. I don't know what happened to him. But anyway, I explained to him that I'm not sure what size I wear because the last time I came about a year earlier to purchase these shoes, I was told that they just would not fit my foot. At this point, he said, okay, no, because typically you need to size up in these shoes, or you want to look for a shoe that kind of supports whatever shoe design or whatever foot design your shoe is. So for an example, if you have a wider foot, you want to have a shoe that has a wider base. So maybe a more narrow shoe like the Suede wouldn't be appropriate for you. If you have a flat foot, then you would not want a shoe that has like a high instep like that you would find in a 120. You would want to go down to a lower heel height. So he explained all of these things to me. And on top of it, he directs me to a table of several Christian Louboutin shoes that were on sale. So now you're telling me potentially that there's a style shoe that could fit me and I'm going to get a deal. I was all in, completely hooked. And let's get started with, again, my very modest and humble Christian Louboutin shoe collection. So when I got my first pair, they came with the red dust bags like these. My boxes are over in storage. I had to get some things out of this apartment. So I do have my shoes here, but none of my boxes. So the first pair of shoes that I purchased were or are these Christian Louboutin Marchand twist pumps. You see that they have the twisted detail here in the front. They are in a suede material, and I believe that they are 100 millimeter heel height. I think the color is called camel. These were my very first pair. I believe that they were approximately $459, and I bought them around 2009, 2010, something like that. And again, they were on sale. My Margiela twist pumps. I've worn them several times. The heel is pretty steep, but they're very comfortable here in the toe box and foot base. And I really like the peep toe option of these shoes. I think the next pair that I purchased, which was also a sale item, are these suede and mesh Vicky Jane pumps. They have this side snap here that goes around the ankle, which I think just kind of elevates it and gives it a little bit more sex appeal. The mesh allows for some toe cleavage because it's kind of like sheer on the foot with the suede and this beautiful almond toe. So these are also quite comfortable. You know what's interesting about these though, thinking about wear and tear, they usually sit back here on my shelf, and I went to take them off my shelf a couple of months ago because I wanted to wear them. And I'm going to pop in a picture. Like, they just started peeling. Like right here, this part was coming up. And I don't even know why, because I hadn't worn them in a couple of years. So I don't know if you ever experienced that with any of your shoes? I don't know. So I had to take them over to the cobbler and get them fixed. I also have the protective soles added to the bottom because I'll show you some as we're going along, a few of my pair that the soles have worn off, and I don't really care for that. So back in the day, in the past, I used to always go and get an added red sole protector so that my shoes always look, fabulously new. Another day, I remember this. This was St. Patrick's Day. I want to say St. Patrick's Day 2012, 2011. And we're on the bar stroll or bar hop, whatever it is that you call it. And I'm with my friend Jessica, and we decided to stop into Saks. This was not during the traditional sale time because, again, St. Patrick's Day is in March. Anyway, I go in, I see my sales associate, and I'm like, do you happen to have anything on sale? And he came back with these killer patent leather replica pumps with this platform in this beautiful, beautiful Bordeaux color. I believe that these are my only 120 20 mil, my only 120 milli, millimeter pumps, but the color, I don't know if it picks up on camera. They are a beautiful, beautiful Bordeaux burgundy color. These, I did not have the sole protectors added to. Why are these so dusty? This is embarrassing. I'm sorry. I haven't worn many of these shoes in so long. They just sit back there on the shelf. But what I love about them is this Mary Jane style, like so traditional, dainty. They even go back to childhood. I had a pair of Mary Janes. But when you get to this heel height and the red bottom, these are just sick to me. I love these shoes, but really can't wear them. I wore them to my girlfriend's bachelorette party, and I had the nerve to be walking in these on the boardwalk of Atlantic City. Barely walking, because these aren't very easy to walk in because of the heel height in particular. And these are a half size bigger than what I typically buy, and so they kind of do slip off and on my feet, I'm not gonna lie. Another issue about these shoes, when I was purchasing them, I think that they were about 70% off at that time, and something was happening over here with one of the snaps. They don't actually snap, it's not functional, but because of that and the fact that they were on sale already, they gave me an additional 5 or 10% off. So I got these for less than $300, and I absolutely love these shoes for photos, for looking at the color, but totally do not wear them. And I know that platforms aren't really in, but these platforms I would wear forever, because I just love them that much. Again, as I said, for pictures. The next pair of shoes that I purchased are my lowest heel height, and these are in a fabric material. And these are called the Angelina, but it has a bit of a different spelling. These are, because they're not leather, they may be leather on the inside, but they do not stretch very much. So they honestly are not very comfortable, despite the fact that they are in the lowest heel height, because I do have a wider foot, and here it really doesn't stretch very much. But I do really like these shoes. I always get compliments on them. I think that they are very pretty. I did not add the sole protectors to these, and I might just do it, because this really, really, really very much bothers me. And I think that these are the lowest um, millimeter. I'm going to go ahead and pop them on the screen, but I love them. Which one of my shoes are your favorites so far? At the time that I purchased these, the Angelinas, I also purchased the only pair of shoes that I have ever sold. And I was shocked that I was actually selling a pair of red bottoms, but this lets you know that they really didn't work out for me. And those were my Bianca platform shoes in this beautiful camel, but they had like a wooden kind of look platform. The toe box was very short. The heel height was about 120, and they were very steep and unrealistic, completely unrealistic to walk in, no matter how often I tried. I tried to wear them once to the Joan Rivers concert. It just didn't work. They just didn't. I would have popped in a picture. I think the color was spectacular, but I think that the heel height and the platform for those particular shoes, by the time I sold them, which was around 2021, I just feel like it was kind of dated, but also just not functional for me. So those are the only Christian Louboutin, my only bloody shoes, red bottoms, that I've ever sold. And no, I actually do not have any regrets. Do you have any shoes that you've ever sold? And if so, do you regret it now, or was it, the best option for you? The next pair that I purchased are my beautiful June slingback pumps. These I actually wore for my wedding reception. I I mean, because they were my something blue. And I didn't purchase these shoes for my wedding. I purchased them prior to. They were on sale. Like everything that I buy, like all of the shoes that I'm sharing thus far have always been on sale because that's my thing. Red bottom, sale. I'm always all for it. So I purchased these, and maybe 3 years after I purchased them, I was getting married, and I said these will be my something old and my something blue. I love these shoes. They're super comfortable. They have this kind of asymmetrical detail here on the front, and then the way that this strap goes across the foot and comes around to the ankle, I think is absolutely beautiful. It does not have any kind of buckling detail. It has elastic here on the side. I guess if you need to, if it needs to stretch to fit everybody's foot. I think for me, they're pretty good. For the most part, I wore them at my reception. I need to take this off. I don't know why it's still here, but that was the marker that it was on sale. Um, and I also wore them a couple of times outside. I'm gonna get some wears out of them, but then I also want to always preserve them. And again, that's the bottoms, so they're in pretty good condition. Haven't worn them too many times. These are my wedding reception shoes. The next pair of Christian Louboutin shoes that I purchased are these bat pumps. These are in a black patent leather. Also, think that these are so cool because I don't know if you can see, but the tip is almost a square point, if that makes any sense, but it's also on an angle that mimics the base of the shoe or the top of the shoe. I don't know what you call this part of the shoe, but that angle, and then this is just a twist on a classic pump, and I love that. I usually like a staple but with a twist because I always want my pieces to be different because I'm different. I'm not rocking what everybody else is rocking. I'm gonna have some version of it, but mine is gonna be just a little bit different. So, at first glance, somebody may think that these were the Socates, but as you get up on it, right? You're gonna see this angular detail here, and then the angular uh, detail there at the toe. And at the time when I got these, a couple of weeks later, I saw Lupita Nyong'o wearing the same shoe, and I just thought, now that's dope. This wonderful, beautiful Hollywood actress who was taking the world by storm at that time. I think she had just earned the Academy Award for, how could I forget the name of the movie? I'm going to go ahead and list it, but I do know that it was a Plan B movie. Plan B, Brad Pitt. Anyway, what? Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna get back on point. But those are my bat pumps. Got those, and then it was a while because I think I got the bat pumps around 2013. So it was. I didn't purchase another pair of Christian Louboutins until around 2017, and these would be my only pair of boots. And these suede little booties with this tiny little heel that I think is a 40. I purchased a half size down from what I usually purchase. They're somewhat comfortable because of the almond toe. Actually, no, I'm being dishonest. They're actually very comfortable, but again, I haven't worn them too many times. I wore them once for Mr. Coy Styles' birthday. We were on carpet for the entire time, so I wore them. They have a little bit of wear and tear at the bottom. Booties are called the Vou's Velour. Vou Velour. I take it that means something in French. These were also sitting on my shelf forever and ever. I had not worn these shoes since around, I want to say 2018 maybe. And I just go one day to grab them off the shelf, and the heel was just broken off. I don't understand. I really do not understand that. It just had, I don't know if it was dry rot or something. My room is in a pretty reasonable temperature. I don't know what caused it. It only happened to one of the boots. So I took them to the cobbler and got them fixed. You can tell from the the heel portion that I really hadn't worn them. So I don't know why that happened. I don't think it necessarily discouraged me from buying more pair of shoes, because you'll see I got some other pair. So if the heel had broken off your shoe, or if like on my Vicky Jane's, if it peeled up, would that discourage you from buying them? Let me know, because I hadn't been discouraged. The next pair of shoes I purchased from Christian Louboutin. So from 2013, well, no, from 2017-ish, I did not purchase another pair until 2025, and that is because I had to jump on the missz pumps. I'm not going to delve too much into these shoes. They have the everlasting sole. They have this detail here where you can actually see the red bottom from the side. They have cushioning inside that make them far more comfortable. The toe box has been widened, that I'm being told also helps the shoe to be far more comfortable. And now in 2025, we have moved to the white dust bags. For years and years, the dust bags were like in this red kind of felt, and now they're in what feels like a cotton, maybe a more sustainable material, and they're in white. Let me know, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the white or the red? But are you somebody who doesn't care at all about the color of a dust bag? I don't know. So my missz pumps in this beautiful metallic color, very comfortable. But I think I made a mistake, if I'm being very honest, if I'm being truthful. I was so thirsty for these shoes because they had sold out, and I'm like, I have to have them. So I ordered them in a full size bigger, and initially I thought that they were very comfortable and they were perfect, but now I'm noticing that that they're not perfect. They are actually too big, and I may be able to go a half a size up, but definitely not a full size up. But also, I'm feeling like I'm going to have to return these shoes that I've really only ever worn. Oh, geez, that I've really only ever worn inside the house, and but I think that they are way too similar to my newest baddies, which are the Margiela and Christian Louboutin collaboration, my Loubiellas. These, this beautiful metallic. I also have a video on these, so I'm not going to talk too much about them, but I am going to link them. But if you think about it, I prefer a slingback heel. And I love this strap here that goes across the foot. I think that these are just incredibly sexy and more my vibe than the missz. But in my wardrobe, I think that shoes in these colors would satisfy the same exact thing. I could either wear these with a pair of jeans or these with a pair of jeans. So if I had a choice at these prices, I believe that these were 995 US dollars and these were 1,395 US dollars. Even though these cost more, I think that these are far more special to me. And after showing all of you the 7 pair of shoes, and actually the 8 pair because of the Bianca that I got rid of, all of those shoes I've purchased on sale. These are a once in a lifetime, I believe, collaboration, a once in a lifetime opportunity to get these shoes. The missz pumps are now being created in other styles, not just this missz style, like in this court shoe kind of situation. So I believe that there's a potential that this style shoe, even with the everlasting sole, this detail over here, all of the features that make it a missz, I believe that these have the potential to go on sale. So I'm going to go ahead and return these. Obviously, keep these, but you'll see some version of the missz back in my collection at some point for sure. So those are all of my Christian Louboutin shoes. That is my very modest collection. Which of these shoes were your favorite? I will link any similars or any that I can find for you in the description box. Which Christian Louboutin shoes do you have? Which are your favorites? and how often do you wear them? How are you incorporating them into your wardrobe? Please know that everything I've shared in this video and every one of my videos is me to a C. I thank you so, so very much for watching. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll certainly see you in the next one. Take care.